Hello everyone and welcome back to the virtual revision class of Network and Cyber Security 15 EC 835. Today we will be revising module 1, which is Transport Level Security or TLS. Now these are the contents of the module 1, which includes web security considerations, secure sockets layer, transport layer security, HTTPS, which is nothing but Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and Secure Shell or SSH. However, today we will discuss the first two contents, the first one being web security considerations, where we see the threats involved in using the web or internet and several approaches used to combat these threats. Next, we have Secure Sockets layer, in which we will see its architecture, operation, and various other protocols associated with it. To begin with, now before understanding the security considerations which are involved in the web, we need to first know its definition. Definition of what? The definition of the web. So, the World Wide Web, which is commonly known as the web that we use in our day to day lives, is basically a client server application which is running over the internet and TCP IP intranets. Having said that, not all sites that we access on the web or internet are safe, and hence there are some threats that needs to be considered while accessing the web, some of which are mentioned in the table which are as shown here. So, as you can see in this table, it has four columns where the first column represents the parameters such as the integrity, confidentiality, denial of service, and authentication. The next column shows the threats involved in each parameter. Then we have, that is the third column, we have the consequences resulting from each threat, and finally the last column lists the countermeasures that could be taken to combat these threats. So our concentration is on the last column, that is nothing but the countermeasures column. Next we have the web traffic security approaches. So, if you recall, in the previous slide, we saw the various threats, consequences, and countermeasures, where countermeasures are nothing but ways of providing web security or security over the internet. Now, the security that we are talking about, that is the web security, can be provided at various levels or layers in the TCP IP protocol stack. As we know, the TCP IP protocol stack consists of various layers or levels. Let's not get into the details of it, but yeah, just let us see where and how the security can be provided and at which layer it can be provided. So now, as you can see in this figure, the security can be provided at either the network level or the transport level or at the application level or layer, as you can see here in figure A, B or C. Now, if you want to provide the security at network layer, what you can do is we can make use of IP security or IPsec. Now, IPsec is nothing but a protocol, which is a security protocol. Nextly, the advantage of using this IPsec at network level is that it is transparent to end users and applications. Transparent means it is invisible to the applications or to the end users who are going to use it. Coming to figure B, the security is here provided at the transport level. And how is it provided? It is provided by making use of two protocols, namely SSL, which is nothing but Secure Sockets Layer, or TLS, which is Transport Layer Security Protocol. Likewise, at the application layer, we have application level specific services such as SMIME or Kerberos. Now, this SMIME or Kerberos are nothing but encryption and authentication protocols which are basically used to digitally sign messages and authenticate users over the internet. So to repeat, in network level or network layer, we can provide security by making use of IPsec protocol. At the transport level or layer, we can make use of SSL or TLS protocol, and at the application layer, we can make use of SMIME or Kerberos, which are nothing but your application specific services or protocols. Moving on to the next slide. Here we have SSL or Secure Sockets layer. Now this Secure Sockets layer is one of the most widely used security services. And the reason why it is widely used is because SSL provides security for the data that is transmitted over the network, which is obviously between the web browser and the server. So why is SSL widely used? It is used because it provides security for the data which is transmitted across the internet. Now, when you use any website, how would you know if SSL is used or not? The answer is very simple, but most of the times we tend to not notice it. So when SSL is used to secure communication between a web browser and a web server, it turns the website's address from HTTP to HTTPS, where the S stands for secure. So the next time you visit any site on the internet, just make sure to notice if the address that you are typing consists of HTTP or HTTPS. If it is HTTPS, you know for now that it is a secured website. And how is security provided by SSL? SSL provides security by encrypting the data that is transmitted or sent across the network between the browser and the server. So now, having understood about SSL, let us now have a look at its architecture. By now, we know that SSL is used in TCP to provide end-to-end security, isn't it? Right. So now if you see this architecture, which is as shown in this figure, what you find is SSL is not a single layer protocol, but it consists of two layers of protocols, wherein in layer 1 we have SSL record protocol, and in layer 2 we have SSL handshake protocol, SSL change cipher spec protocol, and SSL alert protocol, which are part of SSL. So this SSL record protocol, it kind of provides security services to various higher layer protocols, which I already mentioned. Moving on, next we have two important concepts related to SSL. They are SSL connection and SSL session. Let us first look into SSL connection. Now what is this SSL connection means? It is basically a transport that provides a suitable type of service. It can be anything. Then for SSL, such connections are peer-to-peer relationships. Next, connections are transient. The meaning of transient is temporary. So the connections are temporary and not permanent. The other characteristic of this SSL connection is that for every connection is associated with one session. So if you have a connection, there is going to be a session which is going to be associated with it, which means one session, one connection, or one connection has one session definitely. Next we have SSL session. So what is a session? It is basically an association between a client and a server. Association is nothing but a link. So a session is a link between a client and a server. Next, a session is created by the handshake protocol. And lastly, sessions define a set of cryptographic security parameters which can be shared among multiple connections. We'll see this subsequently in detail. Having understood the SSL connection and SSL session, let us now look into the session state parameters. So the session state we saw previously is defined by the following parameters, which include number 1, session identifier, number 2, peer certificate, number 3, compression method, number 4, cipher spec, number 5, master secret, and number 6 is resumable. So these are the session state parameters which define the session. Let us now see each parameter in detail. The first one being the session identifier. So a session identifier is basically an arbitrary byte sequence which is chosen by the server to identify an active or resumable session, which means every session will have a different identifier. Next, we have the peer certificate, which is nothing but the certificate of the peer or a node. Next, there is compression method. Now, compression method is nothing but the algorithm used to compress the data prior to encryption. Next, we have the cipher spec, which is nothing but the one that specifies the encryption algorithm. Next, master secret. Now this parameter is a 48 byte secret key which is shared between the client and the server. Last is resumable parameter, which is nothing but a flag indicating whether the session can be used to initiate new connections. So the value in this is resumable is going to tell us if a new session can be established or the session is busy. Next, we have the connection state parameters. So a connection state is defined by the following parameters, which include server and client random, server write MAC secret, client write MAC secret, server write key, client write key, initialization vectors, and finally the sequence numbers. Let us look into each in detail now. So the first one, which is server and client random, is nothing but byte sequence that are chosen by the server and the client for each connection. So each connection will have a new byte sequences which are chosen by the client and the server. Next we have server write MAC secret, which is a MAC secret key generated by the server for the data sent by the server. Next, client write MAC secret. This is nothing but a MAC secret key which is generated by the client now for the data which is sent by the client. Server write key. It is the secret key used by the server for encryption and client for decryption. So what happens at the server side is encryption and what happens at the client is decryption. Next is the client write key, which is nothing but the symmetric encryption key used by the client for encryption and server for decryption. So it is just the opposite of server write key. Next we have the initialization vectors, which is a random number that can be used along with the secret key for data encryption. And lastly, we have sequence numbers, which are nothing but the numbers which are maintained separately by the server for messages transmitted and received during a data session. And the size of the sequence numbers is 64-bit. Let us now look at the SSL record protocol. Coming to the services which are provided by the SSL record protocol, the SSL record protocol provides two types of services, namely confidentiality and message integrity. And this confidentiality service is provided by making use of encryption algorithms, and message integrity is provided by making use of authentication algorithms like message authentication code or MAC. So after the services of SSL record protocol, let us now look into its operation. So the steps involved here as follows. First, we have fragmentation, then compression, then addition of MAC, encryption, and finally appending SSL record header. So as you can see in this figure here, the record protocol takes an application message to be transmitted. So this is nothing but a message which is going to be transmitted. It fragments the data into small blocks, then optionally compresses the data. It means that each block is compressed, applies a MAC, encrypts, adds a header, and transmits the resulting unit in a TCP segment. And all this happens at the sender side. However, on the receiver's side, what happens is the received data is first decrypted, verified, decompressed and then reassembled before being delivered to higher level users. So as you can see here, the operations that happens at the receiver side are exactly the opposite from that which happens at the sender side. So this was about the SSL record protocol operation in brief. So the next part is the SSL record format. Now if you remember the last step in the previous slide, that is in the SSL record protocol operation was to append the header. Now that header that we were talking about consists of the following fields which are as shown here. So if you see this figure, it consists of 4 fields, namely the content type, major version, minor version, and the compressed length. Coming to the size, length and the operation of each field, first we have the content type which is of 8 bits, and this is nothing but the higher layer protocol which is used to process the enclosed fragment which is encrypted. Next we have the major version which is of 8 bits, and this field indicates major version of SSL which is in use. For example, if we are using SSL v3, the value is 3. Then we have minor version which is again of 8 bits, and this field indicates the minor version which is in use. Again, for example, if you are using SSL v3, the value here is 0. So the minor value is 0 and the major value for SSL v3 is going to be 3. Lastly, we have the compressed length, which is nothing of 16 bits. So this field specifies the length of the plain text fragment or the compressed fragment if the compression is used. Moving on to the next protocols. Here we have two types of protocols, which are the change cipherspec protocol and the alert protocol. Let us first look into the change cipherspec protocol. So as you can see in this figure A, the change cipherspec protocol consists of a single message which is of 1 byte and has a value of 1 into it. Moving on to the alert protocol. The alert protocol is used to convey SSL related alerts to the peer entity. So, as the name itself suggests, the alert protocol is used to give out the alerts to the entity which is involved in communication. Then this alert protocol, it consists of 2 fields or 1 byte each. So as you can see here, there are 2 bytes as we can see in figure B. The first byte indicates the level or severity of warning to be issued. Now the value in this level can either be 1 or 2, where 1 indicates warning and 2 indicates fatal or a dangerous sign or a dangerous alert. So we can say that if level is 1, the connection is safe, but if the level is fatal, then the SSL terminates the connection. Similarly, coming to the second byte, it contains a code that indicates a specific alert. So there are different types of alert messages which we will be seeing in the next slide. So as you can see here, the alerts represented in red are fatal errors which need immediate attention, whereas there are the ones in orange as well, which are nothing but the examples of some other types of alerts, or they can be considered as warning messages. Well, that's all for today. We shall continue the rest of the part in the next class. Thank you.